Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Now, this weekend you could be forgiven for thinking there was no boxing on because, there were no big shows, no arena shows, no stadium shows, either side of the Atlantic. There was nothing really. Everyone was like, it's a boring weekend. You'd have been wrong. There was actually some really fantastic boxing on in the small hall circuit. And I'm going to do two or three videos about these fights because they deserve mentioning. And I'm going to leave the link in the descriptions box for you to go and watch these fights. Okay, the first video I'm going to do is regarding Jamie Stewart and Ben Fields, who fought for Jamie Stewart's Midlands Area what was it now, welterweight title. That was it. Well, the welterweights. Jamie Stewart was the champ, Ben Fields was the challenger. Now listen, both these guys have unflattering records. Jamie Stewart, 3 wins, 2 defeats, hasn't scored a KO and hasn't been KO'd. Okay, Ben Fields, 10 wins, 12 defeats, 2 draws. Okay, they're going in, and he's never scored a knockout, and he's never been knocked out. In all 12 of his defeats, he's never been knocked out. So none of these guys had ever failed to hear the final bell, and that indicates that this was going to go the distance. And it did go the distance. It was a fantastic fight. Ben Fields went in. Ben Fields has this come forward style. He looks to me a bit like Rocky Kelly, the old fighter from the sort of late 80s, early 90s. He was a brilliant action fighter, great on the small hall circuit, and challenged for the British title a couple of times, but came up short. But he had a good career. Ben Fields, come forward, pressure fighter, swarms all over you. Not a great deal of panache or technique or whatever you want to call it. I mean, he's all a bit sort of ragged, but what a heart this guy's got, tremendous heart. Jamie Stewart, taller, likes to box at range. Both these guys have faced a slew of undefeated fighters, but interestingly, they've also beaten some of them. It's not like they're just journeymen who go in there and immediately lose. Jamie Stewart, you might remember him beating Michael Hennessy Jr., the only person to beat Michael Hennessy Jr. so far. He handed him a defeat. I don't think he'd only had a couple of fights. He was only 3-2 going into this fight, but yeah, good fighter. Springs the odd upset. Ben Fields has won. He's beaten, I think. He beat 3 undefeated fighters on the trot, guys who were sort of 7-0, 8-0. Fields beat them, all on points again. He never scored a stoppage. So going in, these guys, they're not journeymen. I guess you'd call them domestic gatekeepers. They're good fighters in their own right, and they really showed it. They showed tremendous heart. Like I say, Ben Fields is the guy who swarms all over you. Jamie Stewart is the guy who likes a bit of range and has far better skills. When he's got that range and he lets his punches go, he actually looks, really quite impressive. Works to the head and the body, left and right. I mean, really good technique. And he's not a young man. I don't know how old. I mean, I know Ben Fields is 32 and Stewart is I think in his late 20s, 28, 29 or something. Interesting backstory with Stewart. I think I'm right in saying he had drug problems. He was addicted, and he got turned his life around with boxing, as we often hear. So I guess getting in a boxing ring when you've been through that is not a particularly intimidating thing, but he was. Most fighters would have been intimidated by Ben Fields, because I gave Ben Fields the first 3 rounds of this fight. I thought he just completely outworked Jamie Stewart, kept him in his box. Pushed him onto the ropes and kept him there, didn't allow him time to work. Fields wasn't really smothering his own work either. He was working on the inside quite well. Stewart at no point appeared hurt or intimidated. He was like, okay, you're bringing it, but he was kind of trying to draw Ben Fields' sting. In the 4th round, Fields looked a little bit slower, and Stewart was able to do some work. It was a very close round, that 4th round. I gave it to Stewart, making it 3-1. And then you gradually had this scenario where ever so slowly Stewart was coming back into the fight, was able to sort of keep just a little bit of space between the two of them and work on the inside. Stewart, again, really very good skills actually. When it was at range, there was only one winner, and that was Stewart. But Fields, despite fatigue setting in, kept the pressure on, kept going forward. See the look on his face. He looked knackered at some point. By about the 6th, 7th, 8th round, he looked absolutely knackered. But he was not going to stop going forward. You'd have to literally level the guy to keep him down. Stewart started to come on really strong around the 8th, 9th. These are 10-round fights, by the way. It's for an area title, but it's only 10 rounds, not 12. And in the 9th, Stewart was really letting his hands go and clocking Fields, you know, flush. Fields weren't backing off. This was, you know, tough, grueling fight. I definitely thought Stewart won the latter rounds, came on strong. But I did think, I think I had it 90. I think I had it either 96, 94, 97, 93 to Fields, just on sheer work rate, and not forgetting that early work. He did get off to a big start. I gave him the first 3 rounds. Fields came back, Stewart came back into it, but it wasn't quite enough for me. The referee was the sole arbiter. He scored it 95-95, a draw. So Stewart retains his title. But I thought Fields was a bit unlucky. No disrespect to Stewart, who was terrific and incredibly tough and courageous, but I did feel that Fields outworked him and should have won by, like I say, 2 or 3 points. But have a look at it. I'm going to leave the link in the description. It was promoted by, I think, Black Atom Promotions, who I've never heard of. This small hall stuff is fantastic if you love boxing. So these area title fights, so evenly matched, you know, really fantastic stuff if you love your boxing. Have a look at this fight. You've got the whole card on the link. And there's quite a few, you know, youngsters fighting the journeyman, but it's interesting to look out for the new stars. You know, you never know, they might pop up later on bigger arenas. But watch the main event, because you won't be disappointed. All right, that's it for now. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button, please. Go on, give us a subscription, give us a like on the video if you liked it. Got plenty more videos for you to look at, and thanks for your time as always. We'll speak again soon. Bye bye for now.